name is Arman Vakili. Shout out Gary V. And this is episode 2 of the hashtag Everything Money show, where we talk about everything that has to do with money. I feel amazing today. It's a great day. I got some really, really good news. We have Periscope going live right now. Deji's on the other phone doing Snapchat. By the way, if you're not following me on Periscope, boom, this is Periscope right here. If you're not following me on Snapchat, boom, this is Snapchat right here. And I'm gonna try to keep the plugs to a minimum today because I'm really excited about the conversation that we're about to have, because this conversation was actually brought up. Then that totally is gonna throw me off if every single time there's gonna be a little click when he does Snapchat. And this all has to be in black and white because evidently I threw off. So now here's the thing. The reason why I'm excited about today's episode is because of the fact that one of my really, really close friends, and he's also one of my sparring partners, his name is Brandon Partovi. Everybody calls him Sensei Brandon. And this would be Sensei Brandon's info. And so he was the one who sent me this question, right? I did this promo on Snapchat saying, hey, listen, I want every question that you have about money. Send me whatever questions you got, and I will answer it on the show, and I will give you a shout out just like we did for Brandon. So I'm saying the same thing to you guys right now that are watching this. You can either Facebook me, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it may be, whatever is available. I think Twitter. If you go to my website, I think all of them are up, so I'm not even going to spend all the time promoting that. And here's the website. Boom. Fantastic. And so the question that Brandon asked, which I think is like such a great question because it applies to so many different people on so many different levels. Doesn't matter what demographic you're in, doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter how old or young you are. I think it applies to everybody across the board. And he basically hit me up saying, you know, Arman, I've stacked up a certain amount of money, and it's not this crazy amount of money, and I want to know what to do with it. How can I flip it, and how can I make more money out of my money, so on and so forth, right? And so that's the question that we're going to get into. And essentially, what I want to say, I think ultimately what it really comes down to is that you just have to sell shit, right? And so the way that that's going to work is it's going to break into a few different categories, but essentially all you really have to realize is that when you're on a bootstrap budget or when you're on a tight budget and you can't go invest thousands of dollars into building a business or advertising, whatever it may be, or you don't have a trust fund, whatever, to actually go buy a franchise, or you know what I mean, like bootstrap, you know what I mean? You're coming from practically nothing and you're trying to build something up. The one skill that is always underestimated, and it's the one skill that most people don't want to admit to when it comes down to just the world of money, is that you got to learn how to sell stuff, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's selling yourself, whether it's selling a product, whether it's selling a service, doesn't really matter. You got to learn how to sell, right? And then with that comes all of these amazing other things that I'm about to jump into right now. So the first and foremost, is you just got to learn how to sell, right? And just learn how to make peace with that. You're either working in sales or you're working for somebody who's working in sales. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it just goes like that across the board. And you choose which one that you want to be, right? And so that's where we're going to leave that. And then we're going to go into the first level of answers that would come up for somebody in the, in situation like Brandon, which is you got to go ahead and either get a product to sell or build a product to sell. Now, there are so many different examples of this that I just, quite frankly, I feel like I can't cover everything across the board, but just to give you some ideas so that it gets your brain going in the right direction. As far as getting a product, so one of the most common rules of economics is the whole buy-sell thing. Buy low, sell high, right? And so you can go to, again, any industry and buy something wholesale and then sell it at retail value, or sell it also at wholesale, but do like a 10%, 20, 30, 50% markup. One of my partners in the fashion district downtown Los Angeles, these guys basically, they buy like, let's say 20,000 pieces, 50,000 pieces at like $1, and then they flip that same shipment. Either if they want to do it wholesale, they'll go ahead and ship it, flip it at like, let's say $2 a piece. And so they take their $20,000 investment and flip it into $40,000. Now, if you have $2,000, same thing applies, right? Because he started originally with just a couple of $100, and he went and he bought some thrift store clothing. He bought some like designer clothing at, let's say, Crossroads or at Goodwill or Salvation Army. He put a little bit of time and energy into it, tried to customize the clothing a little bit, and then he sold like a $10 pair of jeans for $120 because it was custom jeans. I'm sorry? I think we're interrupting somebody. And so he sold like a $10 pair of jeans for $120, $150, simply because of the fact that he had a little bit of ingenuity, and he bought low, he put a little bit of time into it, and then he sold high. And then he went and took the money that he accumulated from those sales, bought a little bit of a bigger lot of, let's say, 1,000 pieces or 500 pieces, and then he flipped that, right? And so that's like a really, really simple example of it. The other example is actually one of my clients. She bought her family's insurance policies from us. And essentially what she did was she would go and she would buy a case of water from Costco. I think it's like a case of like, I don't know, 34 in a case or whatever it is. She would buy this case of water for like $5, and then on a hot summer day, because we're California and it gets pretty hot even in the freaking winter, you know what I mean? On a hot summer day, she would go either by construction sites or by beaches with a cooler filled with ice and water, and she would sell these water bottles for $1 a piece. And it's like you have a 50, let's say 48 bottles in a case, right? And she bought it for $5, and then she sells it for $48. You know what I mean? And so that's a really great profit margin. But it's so simple, you know what I mean? And it's just this whole idea of, hey, are you willing to go ahead and put yourself on the line and actually go sell this stuff, right? So that's kind of where you can go with the buying things. And then there's literally just pick your poison, you know what I mean? Or pick your pleasure, I guess you can say that. Where it's like whatever you're into. So Brandon is into martial arts, you know what I mean? And he works at 24-Hour Fitness, and he teaches kids martial arts, and he's also professionally training himself. So there are so many different categories that Brandon could take, and the tail end of all of this information I'm actually going to give you as far as the practical stuff of how to promote all of these things and how to sell all these things. But Brandon can go into anything that has to do with martial arts and working out and fitness and stuff like that. And so that entire category is open to him, and people will take his advice because of the fact that he's already established himself as a martial arts and fitness coach, right? And so it really is fully dependent on what you're passionate about, and that's going to determine which category that you're going to go into to actually get the product to sell, right? So that's part one of getting a product. The second part was creating a product. Now, creating a product could go into manufacturing, and manufacturing you can't do with a couple of $1,000s. It costs a lot of money to create the minimum order, and a lot of times. What you can do with $1,000, $2,000 is create the sample of whatever you would like to manufacture, and then take that sample, go to somebody who could be your investor, and say, hey, listen, this is the idea that I have. This is the sample of what it's going to look like. I just don't have the money to go ahead and create 1,000 pieces or 10,000 pieces of this thing. Why don't you be my investor? In that situation, you will need to have, in a lot of cases, unless like they really believe in you and unless you have a killer business plan, in that situation, you'll need to have some kind of orders, like a back order happening where I have receivables and I have an order of 1,000, I just can't fulfill my order of 1,000, and this is what the sample looks like, this is how much it's going to cost, this is what you need to, what I need your help with, right? And so that's the situation where, again, it requires for you to be able to sell the product, even though it's just this one sale that you're making to an investor, you're still selling, right? And so that's one part of creating a product, which would be manufacturing. It could be clothes, it could be protein powder, it could be phones and awesome kind of stuff, right? The second part of creating a product falls into the information product category, which is anything books, anything courses, digital media, all this different kind of stuff, and you could actually create that and sell it. And information products could fall into two categories. I think there could be the entertainment value, and then there's utilitarian value, like it serves a purpose of teaching you something, or it just seriously entertains you. And that part is obviously, you know, musicians, and it's like to actually get access to a studio to record your lyrics and to record your song is not that much money, you know what I mean? So you could do that with 1,000 as long as you have the talent. In that situation, the talent is very, very necessary, and it's kind of a requirement for you to be able to sell your product, which is your music. But on the other side, the how-to stuff is really, really easy, right? So for me, I've been in finance for over 11 years, and I've been surrounded by business owners and investors and, you know, a really, really long list of different industries and clients that I've had the pleasure of working with throughout my career, and it's taught me a lot about business and finance and stuff like that. And so what you're seeing right now is the byproduct of that, right? And so we're creating this show, and it's an information delivery type of a show, and I'm delivering value to you as much as I possibly can, and in exchange, I'm gonna ask you to buy stuff eventually. It's not gonna be today, so don't freak out. But I'm gonna ask you to buy stuff. You too. You're totally buying stuff. I'm totally asking everybody to buy stuff, but I have to give all of the value up front, right? One of my favorite quotes is that the price has to be paid in full up front before you can collect anything as far as rewards from life are concerned. So I really believe in delivering information as value, and info products are just really, really easy to make. As long as you have the info, it's just really, really easy to make. All you need is a camera, a mic, a cell phone on a really ghetto tripod, you know what I mean? Like nothing crazy, you know what I mean? As long as you can record the information, and then if the information is good enough that it will just lift off by itself, and I don't have to do any promo because of the fact that the info itself was good enough that people are like, hey, you need to go watch this, right? This is actually helpful, and this guy's giving away practical advice, blah, 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 blah. So that's the other part of creating a product. Now, what we're gonna go into right now, I think I may have I do have another line of products that I wanna share with you, or another way that you can actually monetize that extra like $1,000 or whatever that you have. And that is going into the creating media and production type of the business and learning a skill set. So what you want to do is learn some kind of a skill set that you can monetize. So this part of it is actually, I think, one of the biggest and probably most valuable investments that you can make in yourself is learning a new skill set. Let me explain, okay? So as a biased example, I'm finance, right? I'm a finance guy, I'm a money guy. I'm licensed to do insurance and guaranteed investments, so on and so forth. I don't have my Series 7 license currently activated because of the fact that a lot of people aren't buying mutual funds in the current state of the market and stocks and stuff like that. And so I just, I didn't have a place to park it because we're doing mainly fixed and index investments, so on and so forth. I'm not even gonna get into that. However, the fixed license, right? The license that allows you to do fixed and indexed growth funds or growth accounts, as well as all of the different life, health, and disability insurance policies, that license costs like a couple of $100, like $300-400, depends on which state you're in. But then after that, essentially, with not considering the $40 a month or $50 a month that you would be paying for errors and omissions insurance, there's really no other cost to having that license. And here's how that works. And it's such a brilliant thing, and it's one of those things, it's one of the reasons why so many people love going into either real estate or finance or investments or even insurance, because of the fact that the couple of $100 that you're investing towards getting that license can yield you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars per transaction, right? So, real estate agent gets his real estate license. He comes out. Let's redo that. You have two people going to get their real estate licenses. Person A, person B. Person A decides to pursue $200,000 properties. Person B decides to pursue only $20 million properties and up. Same exact industry, same license. Both people come to the table not having any networks, and both people come to the table having to make cold calls and do cold marketing and prospecting to get their sales, right? Same exact amount of money invested, same exact amount of time and energy invested, and who do you think is going to end up making more money at the end of the year? If both guys are making 50 calls a week, right? 50 calls, not even anything crazy. 50 calls a week they're making, and then out of those 50 calls, this one's targeting $200,000 homes, this one's targeting $20 million homes. Who do you think is going to end up making more money at the end of the year? It's so simple, right? And it's so basic, and the answer is so obvious. However, first off, most people don't even go try to get their investment license or insurance license or real estate license. And right now, it's kind of a really tough time to go into real estate anyway. I have friends who are currently in real estate who are hurting because this, just in general, the business is hurting because of everything that's happening with the financial markets. That's not for this specific conversation. I'm not going to get into that. So, you can, however, go ahead and invest into some kind of a licensing program where you get a license and actually move money or sell, so on and so forth. So that's one skill that you could learn, and it's like $500, right? The other one is web development and programming, and it's one of those skill sets that is going to be, for the foreseeable future, it's going to be the most relevant skill set. I have my background in finance, and I'm trying to learn everything about web development and programming and social media marketing and everything that has to do with the internet, because of the fact that the entire world is moving into the internet, and they're moving into digital media and consuming things through YouTube or Periscope or Snapchat or whatever it may be, right? So it's such a strong and powerful and relevant skill set to learn. And again, it doesn't cost you much money to learn, $500, $1,000, $2,000. And then after that, you can either develop your own websites and your own content and sell stuff on your own websites and your own social platforms, which I highly recommend you do. Or you can go ahead and contract yourself out to an agency to do all of the web development for them, or you can go ahead and start your own web development company where you design websites for people and charge $2,000 to $5,000 a pop to design a website, or $10,000 a pop to design a website for somebody that'll take you a week to develop. Depends on the complexity of the website. Obviously, there are certain sites that are a lot more complicated than other sites, and so some are a lot easier to set up, some are a little bit more complicated to set up, but essentially you're going to be getting the money, you're going to be getting paid in direct proportion of the quality of website that you design for the person. But again, it's just a skill set, right? It's something that you will learn that at that point you own, and you can go and do whatever you want with it, which is why it's one of the most powerful investments that you can make in yourself, is learning these different skill sets. Now, the third part of the skill set learning thing, the third part of that is learning how to produce media for people. So Deji, how much is this camera? Like right now, if somebody wanted to go buy this camera, or like, not even that, the GoPro one that just came out that does the Wi-Fi with the cell phone, and it does like 4K, all that stuff. How much is that? $500. How much are the lights? $150 for the lights, and then the stands and whatever else, like all the extra bells and whistles.
I would say everything probably like $1,000.
So $1,000, and you can pretty much be hooked up. You know what I mean? Like, you'd be decked out media-wise, that you'll have a camera, you'll have like all this stuff that goes along with the camera, and then if you already have a cell phone smartphone that actually connects to, an iPhone. Let's just call it an iPhone. I can't believe it. I used to be such a big Samsung person. Now I'm like a sellout to the iPhone industry, and I'm promoting iPhones. It's nuts. It's crazy. But okay, let's say you have your iPhone, and then you have your entire media kit, right? And you are now set up to essentially do production in general. Do you know what I mean? You are not going to be able to pull off like, big screen movies, but you could definitely do production. You could definitely do short films. You could definitely do model shoots and photo shoots and shoots like this and all of these different things. You can actually get paid for that, right? And then the beautiful part of it is that, the investment that you would make, let's say $1,000, right? And then you go ahead and you get a gig for $2,000, and so you got back your investment and then some, and then you can continue to do gigs if you want, or you can start producing your own content and putting out your own content and building equity online in the digital world, and then you can monetize that equity and monetize that entire wealth that you've developed for yourself in the digital world, however way that you want to, which is actually it's perfectly leading to the last part of this entire video that I want to talk to you about, which is your personal brand, right? So developing your personal brand is what we want to talk about right now. So if you haven't noticed already, I've mentioned his name a couple of times. I think I mentioned it a couple of times during the first episode. I mention it pretty much at the beginning of every single episode because I've learned a lot from this guy, and this show essentially is an attempt to emulate the quality of work that he's put out, obviously in my industry, mainly centered on the financial services industry. But A guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Gary V is what he's super known for. And he's the one that I learned pretty much everything about personal branding from. And he has books and he has courses, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably just link all of the different books that he has in the description below, and we're going to link his website, and we're going to link all this different kind of stuff, because I really want you guys to go and actually check out this guy's work in the area of personal branding and actually developing your own online brand for free practically, and really cashing in on it and actually making money doing something that seems ridiculously easy, right? And so Gary Vaynerchuk, like I can't say enough about this guy, personal branding, all this different kind of stuff. Now the one thing that I will say that is going to immediately apply to you right now, it's going to immediately apply to Sensei Partovi, Sensei Brandon, my sparring partner, and it's going to apply to literally every other person, from the guy who is doing lawn work and he does gardening work for people, to the guy who's selling cars at a dealership, to the guy who does production and he does modeling shoots and he does photo shoots and video shoots and stuff like that, to the guy who's in finance, to the guy who has a mom and pop burger spot, to the guy blah 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 blah. So it doesn't really matter at all which industry this is in. The personal brand is taking over the business space, right? It got to the point where, you have these massive billion-dollar companies, insurance companies, that are getting a mascot to represent them, because if they approach the consumer market from the perspective of, hey, we're this big, massive conglomerate and we want to sell you insurance. Like, if they did that, obviously nobody would buy it. But if they create a character named Flo, who's totally charismatic and really fun, and she's this awesome, funny chick, everybody could relate to it, right? And you see this across the board with so many different brands, where they bring this personal character, they bring this human being into the play, and so everybody can relate to it. And then on the on the opposite side of that, you have the actual creatures that are the mascots. So it's like the Budweiser frogs, or the Budweiser iguanas, or the Geico, or the Geico gecko, right? Or, God knows so many different things, right? And so you have all of these different characters and personalities that are designed to add a personal touch to these massive brands, and they work amazingly well, right? But then you also have the small business owner who really doesn't have the ad revenue to put up a TV ad on the Super Bowl Sunday, you know what I mean, and go ahead and spend $25 million for a 30-second spot so that they can get brand awareness. But what they can do is they can go ahead and get a cell phone, right, and use the cell phone camera to record video, post it on YouTube, and then start developing their personal brand, right? And obviously, hey, my name is Joe Schmigegi, and I really like brim hats. What are these hats? What are they called? Yeah. It's not a baseball cap. We had this conversation about it the other day. I forget. It was like so specific because it's flat and what is it called?
Oh yeah. I forget now.
Freaking A. So anyway, some Joe Schmigegi who's interested in hats, right? And so his passion of hats is going to come across through the video, and as long as he posts consistent videos, then he's going to build that equity, right? And then we're going to do another episode on equity and on capital, because I feel like people are so misinformed or underinformed about all of the different types of equity that are available, all of the different types of capital that are available. It's not just financial capital, where it's money and real estate and gold and stuff. There is social capital, there's intellectual capital, there's living capital, which is if you have plants and if you have trees and, animals and livestock and stuff like that. There is, I guess we can call this electronic capital or tech capital, where you actually have this thing that can serve a purpose for you, and you can actually make money from this. You know what I mean? So there are so many different versions of capital. There are so many different versions of equity. One of the biggest ones is digital social equity, which is everything that happens online. So the moment that you buy joeschmigegi.com and start adding content to that, you're building this digital building. And the more content you have on it, the bigger the building becomes. And another article puts another brick on it, or another video puts another room on it, or so on and so forth. And you're constantly building this thing. And the more you add to it, the more attractive it becomes, and the more traffic it attracts and generates. And then from there, you're building the equity, and you're building something called passive traffic or residual traffic. And then you go ahead and monetize that however you want to monetize it, right? And so it's really simple, honestly. It's just one of these things that it's so simple that it goes over people's heads and they never try it. And what's awesome is that there is only one you, right? There's only one Deji, there's only one me, and you can't duplicate us because there's only one of us. And so when we live from our own true center, then there is no competition. You know what I mean? However, if I wanted to brand myself as Arman, the financial planner, there's literally 50 million freaking financial planners. And so it becomes so tough to take the financial thing route where I can just be myself and talk about money and try to add as much value to people as possible and set up my web presence properly enough that the website will do my lead generation for me, the website will do my qualification of prospects for me, and essentially the website will also do my selling for me. And now I'm building this business that I love and I enjoy doing, and I'm sitting inside an office at 10 p.m. in Century City recording this video that's gonna go up, and I'm so excited for people to see it, you know what I mean? And as long as the video adds value to you, as long as you can walk away from it learning something that you can actually apply to your life immediately, then I'm winning and I'm happy about what I did. And so what I want, and like the action step for you guys today, is whatever you're selling, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you're selling, whatever industry you want to go into, it doesn't matter. If you have $1,000 to invest, $2,000 to invest, that's awesome. But if you have $50 to invest, go buyyourname.com. It's like $10 a year from GoDaddy, and then buy hosting, which is like $7, $8 a month, or $10 a month, depends on what kind of hosting you get, and start learning the process of web development, which is all available for free online. You can go to YouTube, just like you kind of found me and you're watching this. You can go to YouTube and you can search for all the informational videos of how to develop your own website for free, and how to make a cool website, and how do I upload stuff to it, and how do I do all that stuff is available for free, right? So the information is available. All you have to do is just put in the work, learn the skill set, and really, really get comfortable with the process of the fact that you just have to sell stuff to make money, right? And that's essentially it. I mean, unless you want to go buy like a vending machine, which I guess you could also do with like $2,000. You could probably buy a vending machine for like $1,500 and then put like the food or snacks or whatever into it and put it in a high traffic area, and people will buy stuff from it and you can collect your money, right? Same thing with video game machines. But I mean, everybody plays games either on their phone or like on their crazy Xbox, PlayStation concoction at home. So I don't know how much that's gonna do well for you. Like, so again, basic economics, right? So supply and demand. I don't know how much arcades are in demand right now, but it is what it is. It's the same thing, right? So you just have to get comfortable with the idea that you have to sell stuff. If you really, really can't do that, then you gotta find somebody that can do that for you, right? And then you gotta figure out a way to give them some kind of an incentive that they'd be willing to actually do that for you, and then you can go ahead and capitalize on it, right? So that was pretty much it. I hope the video was valuable to you guys. I hope you actually are able to use the information. And then obviously please ask all of the questions that you have, because it's such a general video that I know there's going to be more questions. And when I know what the specific questions are that are on your mind right now, then I can go ahead and address it in future videos and just keep creating content that will apply to you guys. So the action step for sure is to go ahead and buy your website, yourname.com. And then hopefully it'll be easy for you. If you're Joan Smith or John Smith, you're not gonna get it. But if you're John Smith, the personal trainer, then you could be johnthetrainer.com or jsmithtraining.com, whatever it may be. So you gotta be a little bit creative with that part if you have like a really super generic name. But if you have Arman Vakili, it's like the most foreign freaking name in the world. If you have Deji Bankole, you know what I mean? There aren't very many Deji Bankoles, you know what I'm saying? And if there was, then his full name, Akin Deji Bankole, it's like, there's no other person that has that name. So it's like he scored on that, right? And so if you're Joan Smith, I'm sorry. If you're John Smith, I'm sorry for you. But it's not that hard. You can still figure it out. So that's pretty much it. Please leave all the questions and comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share it with your friends if you haven't done so already. And I look forward to the next one. Am I forgetting anything, Deji?
Snapchat.
We're good, right? Snapchat. So yeah, follow me on Snapchat. I mean, if you just go to my website, armanvakili.com, right? And then just below as well, the link is below. If you go to the website, all of my social is there. I moved it from the bottom of the website to the very top of the website. So it's above the fold. My Snapchat is there, Pinterest is there, YouTube is there, Facebook is there, and Instagram is there. And more than anything, I really want to focus on Snapchat. So if you're not on Snapchat, get your ass on Snapchat and follow me. This is my Snapchat username. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was episode 2 of the what? Hashtag everything money